Good morning, I'm Diana Fishlock, and I'm here with my son, Elliot. I am a mom of two, and I've been a member of the church, I think, for about 10 years. I grew up in a very small town. My family was very active in the church that was Methodist and Baptist combined. And then when I was in high school, my dad started going to the UU church in Syracuse, and I just loved it. So that was my first introduction to UU life. I share leadership of today's service with Cory Ness, Director of Religious Education, Yvonne Duvall, Director of Music, Lois Voigt, accompanist, and Amy Firestein, our service tech, and Dan Vaughn, song leader. To all our viewers, whether you be a member or a visitor, we're so happy to have you so happy that you have chosen to join us this morning. An online coffee hour will follow today's services, starting at 11:30 a.m. Please join via the link provided in the email you received this morning with today's service link. In the spirit of transformative power of community in all its forms, I'm so happy to welcome you to UCH. Whoever you are, wherever you live, whomever you love, whatever you do for a living, you are welcome at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Harrisburg.
This month, as we hold history, let us take time together to talk about Sophia Lyon Fahs and the celebration of multi-generational faith formation. Sophia Fahs shares with us that the spiritual way is the deep way that sees what physical eyes alone fail to see, the intangibles of the heart of every phenomena. The religious way is the way that touches universal relationships, that goes high, wide, and deep, that expands the feelings of kinship. Sophia Lyon Fahs, 1876 to 1978, was an extraordinary religious educator who worked imaginatively to stimulate and capture the sense of wonder and creativity in our everyday lives. Fahs believed that every encounter with life was a possibility for deeper learning about who we are, what matters, and how we connect with that which is sacred. Sophia Fahs Sunday is a celebration of an enduring legacy that signals an eternal sense of possibility in the lives of today's children, youth, and adults. As an engine for promoting innovative faith formation, the Fahs Collaborative Laboratory for Faith Formation assembled a group of talented religious educators, ministers, and musicians to provide inspiring stories of faithful living in congregational life, as you are about to witness. As a side note, you will see some of our images from our congregants sent to me over the summer from Flat Sophia's adventures during the special music portion from our bell choir. And now, the sentiment of the following is based on the words from Reverend Jude Geiger from the Fahs Collaborative of Meadville Lombard Theological School. He shares with us that our lives are made up with many steps and many choices, but our journey is also shaped by the people around us, the places we've come from, and the stories of those who led our world to this place. Our service this morning is about the journeys of the Spirit, both the work of building the world we dream about and the emotions of our hearts. Through story and song, ritual and reflection, we'll consider these words. What will I do? Where will I go? When will I know? Is it time to set sail or row? We all come from many places. There are so many stories woven into a life, and the road we take is full of the places we've been and the people we've known. Though we live into this moment and the next, we are all grounded in all the lives that we have touched with our hearts. Today, you are invited to listen to the stories of people deeply touched by others. And now we will light our chalice. Elliot, do you want to stand next to me? I offer you peace. I offer you friendship. I offer you love. I see your beauty. I hear your needs. I feel your feelings. My wisdom comes from a higher source. I honor that source in you. Let us work together.
Rejoice and come in. Enter, rejoice and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Good morning. My name is Elliot, and I'm an 11th grader at Camp Hill Middle School High School. Today's story is titled The Hermit in the Well by Nat Han, a story from the time the author was a young boy in Vietnam when his school class goes to a trip to climb a mountain. He hopes to meet the hermit who lives near the top. Instead, he discovers a beautiful well and finds a secret to his own happiness. Each page is fully illustrated with lively and engaging paintings by renowned artist Warden. When I was a child, I lived in North Vietnam. One day, our school teacher told us that we were going on a trip to the top of a nearby mountain. He said that at the top of the mountain there lived a hermit, a man who lived alone and sat quietly day and night to become peaceful like the Buddha. I had never seen a hermit before. I was very excited. The day before the trip, we made food for a picnic. We cooked rice, rolled it into balls, and wrapped the balls in banana leaves. We prepared sesame seeds, peanuts, and salt to dip the rice in. The morning of our trip, we walked for a long time until we finally reached the foot of the mountain. My friends and I climbed as quickly as we could. We ran almost all the way up the mountain. There were so many beautiful trees and rocks along the path, but I did not stop to look at them because I wanted to reach the top of the mountain. I ran past flowers and trees. I rushed past the bright blue sky. When my friends and I finally reached the top, we were very tired. We had drunk all our water on the way up and did not have a single drop left. We looked around for the hermit. We looked and looked. Then we saw his hut made of bamboo and straw. Inside we discovered a small cot and an altar made of bamboo, but no hermit. Where was he? Maybe he had heard us coming up the mountain and was hiding somewhere away from the noise. It was time to have lunch, but I wasn't hungry. I was too tired and disappointed. Maybe if I wandered into the forest, I could find the hermit. I left my friends and started climbing farther up the mountain. I was very thirsty. You know, this would never fly in an American school. They'd be like, "Where's this kid?" As I walked deeper into the forest, I heard the sound of dripping water. It was like the sound of music being softly played. I started to climb in the direction of that lovely sound. Soon I found a natural well. Big rocks of many colors surrounded a small pool. The water was so clear that I could see all the way down to the bottom. I knelt down, scooped some water into my paws, and began to drink. The water tasted wonderfully sweet. You cannot imagine my happiness. It was delicious. I felt completely satisfied. I did not need or want anything at all. Even the desire to meet the hermit was gone. But suddenly I realized I may have met the hermit after all. Maybe the hermit had transformed himself into the well. Maybe he cared about me. This made me very happy. I lay down on the ground next to the well and looked up at the sky. I saw the branch of a tree against the blue sky. I was very relaxed. Soon I fell into a deep sleep. I don't know how long I slept. When I awoke, I didn't know where I was. Then I saw the branch of the tree against the sky and the wonderful well. I remembered everything. It was growing dark, and it was time to go back to join my classmates. I said goodbye to the well and began to walk back down. As I walked out of the forest, a sentence formed in my heart like a poem with only one line. I have tasted the best water in the world. Thank you.
Today, in this congregation, someone is hurting or in sorrow. Today, in this congregation, someone is anxious because of events in the world. Today, in this congregation, someone is lonely. Today, in this congregation, someone is filled with joy and wants to celebrate. For all the fear and sorrow in the world today, there are still moments of joy. I have 2 joys and concerns to share with you this morning, and these are from the Vaughn family. Dan Vaughn's mother, Pat Tannehill, passed away on Wednesday, November 3rd. Your loving thoughts and energy are appreciated. And Sharon Vaughn's father, Glenn Newsom, has started hospice care at his home in Lubbock, Texas. Please join me in a moment of silence.
This reflection is from the Reverend Clyde Grubbs. My first memories were Dallas, Texas. World War II had just ended, and I didn't know much about the meaning of that war, but words like GI, Nazi, and atom bomb were part of my earliest vocabulary that I learned from other children. The elders asked us not to use those words during family time. My family were Cherokee Indians in a Jim Crow Texas. The world was divided between white and black, and I was told that we were neither. My grandmother was proud of her heritage and shared that pride with me. She taught me that the earth was the source of all life and that I must respect and cherish this creation. She told me how the Cherokees had been forced out of their homeland in the Great Smoky Mountains and how the government had broken treaty after treaty with Indian peoples. For the most part, I was respectful of her wisdom. But she didn't approve of me going to the movies because I would see cowboys killing Indians and get the wrong idea. It took many years before I understood the wisdom of her caution. My mother was a nurse who had discovered Unitarianism as a teenager and loved liberal religion. She took to heart the ideas, and we believed we should live into those ideals. For her, opposing Jim Crow and racial prejudice were important ways we lived as Unitarians. So 2 spirits have informed my life. One spirit has made me proud of being American Indian and aware that our lands are occupied by a conqueror. That spirit urges me to be proud of my people and reach out in solidarity to others who have been oppressed and misused. The other spirit has urged me to love and work with all peoples for a better world and restored relationship with our mother, the earth.
A reflection by Samantha Burden. Now a senior in high school, I often think back to freshman year and wonder how in the world I went from being the judgmental and somewhat cruel person I was to the more compassionate and driven young adult I am now. The clearest answer is that while I've always been a worrier, my worrying rocketed up many levels last year. I was diagnosed with several anxiety disorders. Having struggles in my life for the first time tested me greatly, and now I was starting to come out the other side. I like who I've become with the help from everyone who has stood with me through my trials and tribulations. When school got out for the summer last June, after an extensively worrisome and lonely semester, I pursued experiences to explore my interests and skills over the summer. I participated in workshops, camps, protests, and university tours. The break from the rigid schedule of public educational system provided me with time and support to heal. Due to my improved state, the mindfulness therapy and medications I had employed finally made a lasting impact. My return to personhood from the depths of apprehension and anguish was similar to the butterfly hatching from its chrysalis. And upon hatching, I was able to see a plethora of amazing people already ready and eager to help me. When the new school year arrived, I had concerned I would backslide. Instead, I found that I was again able to remain focused on schoolwork. Not only have I regained skills I worried were lost, but I also have returned to my high-functioning state. I have been able to wholeheartedly throw myself into social justice, running my school's women's club that I co-founded last year, and maintaining partnerships with other feminist organizations. It takes effort and time. With the great help of my family, mentors, friends, and psychiatric team, I've mastered healthy coping strategies that will allow me to continue ruthlessly on my spiritual journey.
At this point, we invite you to think about those people who have helped you on your spiritual journey. I wonder, who has helped you become who you are in the world today? And I wonder, how have they helped you?
A reflection by the Reverend Warden. It was a beautiful day, sunny and warm, with a bright blue sky, the sort of day you see on postcards of New York City. Because it was so beautiful, there were lots of people on the promenade outside my apartment house. People loved the view of the harbor and the Statue of Liberty and the tall buildings of Lower Manhattan across the East River, especially the Twin Towers. It was September 11th, 2001. Pardon me. When the towers fell, making a terrible low sound, we did not know what we should do, but we knew we had to do something. As the story of the attacks emerged, I knew that fear and anger would spread quickly. I did two things. First was to organize a service for that evening and put up signs around the neighborhood to invite people. It was a place to be angry and afraid, but also sad and safe. When we don't know exactly what to do, finding others who feel the same way is helpful. We need to find a way to be strong and hopeful. The second thing I did that day was walk down to the local mosque, the oldest in Brooklyn, where the imam and I were acquainted. We embraced, and I said, we need to have a public prayer service on the promenade, Sunday afternoon, where every religious leader would be present and we would stand together. The next few days I spent calling my colleagues, talking to police about the crowds, and telling people about the service. That Sunday, more than 1,000 people came, many marching from the mosque as I did with the imam and other religious leaders. On the promenade, looking at the plume of smoke rising from where the Twin Towers were, we heard the shofar, because the Jewish New Year was just 2 weeks away. The imam chanted from the Quran. Christian clergy prayed. Politicians came and wanted to speak, but we said no. This was a moment of prayer. They do it every year on September 11th. The people of the First Unitarian Church became friends with the Islamic community nearby. Every year since, they have celebrated a Ramadan iftar together. I'm no longer their minister. This is their ministry now. In my current church, we celebrate Ramadan as we did there in Brooklyn, where we also need to feel strong and hopeful.
When we feel fear or confusion, or when we feel helpless, sometimes the best things we can do is follow the advice of the beloved Mr. Rogers' mother and look to the helpers. there are always helpers nearby.
A reflection by the Reverend Kate Braystrup. The family members never fail to surprise me on how terrific they are, how brave they are. A lot of the work I do is around death and helping people deal with the immediate needs after someone they love has died. I'm the chaplain of the Maine Warden Service, which is the enforcement branch of the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, and who is charged with wilderness search and rescue operations. I'm called out for events where there's a good possibility of either significant trauma or death, and my job is to wait with the family and explain what's going on and to help them marshal their resources for dealing with this. I can be helpful to them, hopefully, in the first few minutes of the impact of bad news. The loss of a loved one is something I myself have experienced. My husband died in 1996. He was a state trooper and he was killed in a car accident. I've actually been on the receiving end of the kind of care that I'm hoping I'm offering people. It was such a shattering experience and a moment of such extreme vulnerability. And in my case, it was met with so much love and compassion and care right from the beginning. I think I experienced that as a religious experience, or at least it's as close as I'm likely to get. So it really became, in the long run, my definition of God. I went to seminary both because it was something my husband Drew was going to do after he retired from the state police. He was going to become a Unitarian Universalist minister, but also I think a lot of it was just wanting to participate in this overwhelming sense of love and care that I had experienced. If I'm ever asked where is God in such tragedy, or why would God let something like this happen, I will say what's true for me, which is that God is not the accident, not the water in the lungs, not the ice that broke. It's that God is always present in love, always. So if you want to see where God is, you look around for where love is coming into the picture. The rest of it is just biology and physics. The ice will only hold so much weight, and the human body can only stand so much cold. But the fact that someone would be willing to go into the woods to try and find me, try with as much compassion and tenderness as he or she can summon, to tell the people who love me that I'm dead, and to take care of them in that moment, that's God. That's worth it. That's worshiping.
Sometimes we feel like we're too young or too old to accomplish something, or that we're just not ready to be the one that makes the difference. But helpers come in all sizes and shapes.
Reflection by the Reverend Karen C. In 2001, I founded International Bridges to Justice, an organization dedicated to protecting the basic legal rights of ordinary citizens in developing countries. This journey begins with a young boy who has become one of the many heroes for the work that I do today. Not so long ago, as a lawyer working for the United Nations, I experienced a dramatic shift in my perception of approaches to international human rights and issues concerning the detained and imprisoned. Vishna, a 4-year-old boy who was born and lived in a Cambodian prison, is my favorite hero. Because he was born in the prison, the guards knew him his entire life and grew quite fond of him and allowed him free range of the prison. He was small enough to climb through the bars. When I met him, though, he was getting older and could no longer get through the bottom rungs of the prison bars. But he could climb up to the 3rd bar, which was slightly bigger, then slowly turn his head to the side, and then find a way to barely pass through the bars to the other side. Every day that I went to the prison, he would go through this process so he could run out to meet me. Then he would take my hand and go with me to each and every prison cell. At each of the 156 prison cells, he would reach his little hand or finger to make contact with a prisoner. For most of them, he was their greatest joy. In this boy, I saw thousands like him who would be the direct beneficiaries of a functioning criminal justice system with a standard of basic human rights. Therefore, IBJ works to guarantee all citizens the right to competent legal representation, the right to be protected from cruel and unusual punishment, and the right to a fair trial. I often think of Vishnu, a boy born into a prison without material or physical comfort, but a boy who had a sense of his own heroic journey and desire to give up a piece of his life to something greater than himself. I think of the contributions he made to the prisoners' wretched lives, both on an individual level as he reached out his hand so many times, and also of the contributions he made to human rights through me, for he so often gave me strength when I was not sure why I should continue. This heroic spirit and journey to reach behind the bars of injustice is open to all of us.
Like Vishnu, you may be an agent for someone that pulls them through. When you help others, you help yourself. The power of one human being reaching out to others can be life-changing. I have to wonder if you've ever been that person, if you've reached out. I wonder if you can see yourself in these stories. I invite you to take a few moments to again reflect on the ways that you have reached out to others.
The Unitarian Church of Harrisburg is, as always, a freely gathered church of free people. The church is created, sustained, and supported by you. The ministry continues even whether the church building is open or closed. During the month of November, we share our offering with the Ecumenical Food Pantry. For more than 45 years, the Ecumenical Food Pantry has worked to meet emergency food needs of people in the greater Harrisburg area. At the start of the pandemic, the number of people served at the pantry decreased as temporary food outlets opened. However, the special pandemic food distributions seem to be ending, and the requests for food at the pantry have been rising again. The pantry is currently providing a 3-day supply of food to about 300 households or 900 people every month. The pantry is managed and operated entirely by volunteers. Pantry operations and procedures were completely reworked to keep volunteers and clients safe. The pantry is located at Messiah Lutheran Church in downtown Harrisburg. It's supported by many area churches, businesses, organizations, individuals, and a state grant. Your support is vitally important. For those who wish to contribute, please see the email with the link for today's service, or visit uchbg.org homepage for options for contributing. Your financial support and commitment matter. Please consider giving what you are able.
Today's service comes to our congregation from the Fahs Collaborative of Meadville Lombard Theological School in Chicago. The stories we are hearing this morning, true stories of the faith journeys of fellow Unitarian Universalists, speak to the courage and strength, that spark of the human spirit. Our congregations all across the country and around the world want to nurture and empower the flame of truth, justice, and creativity in individuals of all ages, as well as in our religious communities. The Fahs Collaborative, which focuses on congregational life, is doing amazing work for the present and the future of liberal religion that means so much to us. Today, we invite you to consider becoming a transformer by donating to the Fahs Collaborative. Your dollars and cents, concrete in their present form, will transform into innovative programs, research, and resources benefiting our individual and shared liberal religious journeys. You may make out your checks to Meadville Lombard Theological School, and please write Sophia Fahs Sunday in the memo line. Elliot.
The Light of a New Day by Reverend Malik Slack. 4 days before Easter, during my second year of seminary, I sat down at my desk, wrote a letter to all the students, faculty, and staff, and, terrified, I hit send. I wrote about the name I've been using to refer to myself since childhood, and of all the things that went into living my life as the man I knew I was called to be. I shared resources for deeper education and understanding about being trans. Before I knew it, I was also writing about how I connected to notions of resurrection and how stepping into the uncharted territory of disclosure in a predominantly Christian institution was precisely like stepping out on faith. Because they were part of my chosen family, I wanted them to know. I needed them to know. And in the weeks that followed, I received over 100 cards and letters of support, lots of flowers, and a commitment from the administration to journey with me through name and gender marker changes, which they did. I even got an impromptu, not entirely on point, but nonetheless cute, tutorial from all of the cis guys in my class on how to be the best guy I could be. Yeesh. I realized that becoming my truest self, despite knowing what lay ahead, was what having faith was all about, and the best way to grow in that faithfulness was in community. Sometimes when the state of the world is bringing me down, I need to pull out that letter. I'm reminded of how much I have grown and the possibilities for living a new life that surround me. I'm reminded of the beautiful impact that my seminary community had on the deepening of my own faith, and the intentional connection with folks can grow us more powerfully into our own becoming. And then I can have hope that we can actually meet one another where we are, and that by faith we can do the work of bringing ourselves and each other into the light of a new day.
I wonder if you show your true self to others. I wonder if you feel safe sharing your true self. I wonder if you feel safe being your true self in this community. I wonder who your true self is. Please take a few moments to reflect on how you bring your true self into this beloved community. The world is a love song our souls long to hear, to fill up our spirits and dispel the fears. So I will go be, and I will go do. Because one thing I know, each day hope is renewed. What will I do? Where will I go? Deep down, I know when it's time to set sail or row.
Please join in the reading of our Unison Affirmation. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is our gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to speak our truths in love, and to help one another.
Standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling oceans, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the light of our heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Before we close, I want to thank everybody for making today's service possible. Elliot and Diana, Yvonne, Amy, Dan Vaughn for singing one of my most favorite songs, and Lois for accompanying. We close with the words which began our service. We are never alone. Our stories tell us we can make a difference together. Sometimes in what we do, and sometimes just in how much we share our love with the world. Thank you and amen.